Avdiivka was released. The attack of the Russian JV continues in 5 directions. The armed forces of the Russian Federation are attacking in 5 main directions, almost along the entire front. Even a diagram published in the New York Times shows the Russian wall of fire rolling westward from Kremenaya, Artyomovsk, Avdiivka, Marinka, and Rabotino. On the real battlefield in Zaporozhye, the Rabotinsky garrison of the Ukrainian armed forces is actually divided into 2 parts, and the Russian troops destroy the enemy in bags of fire. The attack on Ukrainian positions began in the area of the city of Chasov Yar, with the mass use of FPV drones and adjustable aerial bombs of up to 1,500 kilograms. Units of the Russian armed forces entered the village of Pobeda, 3 kilometers south of Marinka, in the direction of Ugledar. Russian troops can enter the city of Pokrovsk, 40 kilometers west of Avdiivka, an important transport and logistics center of the armed forces of Ukraine. The West is confused and desperate. The US and the European Union fear the collapse of the Ukrainian armed forces after the withdrawal from Avdiivka. The Pentagon believes that without US funding, Ukraine's defenses will most likely fail. American and European analysts give a very negative assessment and comment on the events in the theater of military operations in Ukraine. Confusion prevails at NATO headquarters. Russian offensive operations in the winter were previously considered impossible. After the release of Avdiivka from the armed forces of Ukraine in February, it is necessary to reassess the situation, reset forecasts and plans. The Russian army today fights not with numbers, but with intelligence. Even the enemy admits, the Russian armed forces have learned to isolate the battlefield, that is, to destroy logistics. During the 2 years of the special military operation, the Russian artillery was automated in striking the target immediately after it was identified. The initial superiority of artillery shells is becoming more and more impressive against the background of the shortage of shells in the armed forces of Ukraine. A serious advantage of the Russian troops is the large number of adjustable air bombs with a caliber of 500 kilograms to 1,500 kilograms. The communication capabilities of the RF armed forces have increased significantly. The group of Russian troops in the zone of special military operations is growing in terms of quantity and quality. Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council Dmitry Medvedev said on February 19, in general, since January 1, more than 53,000 people have been accepted into military service in the country, based on the interests of the joint group of troops. More than 30,000 volunteers per month, and activity is not decreasing by 2023. The European coalition claims to supply the armed forces of Ukraine with 1 million drones, without fulfilling its obligation to deliver 1,155mm artillery shells per year. The term is not clear. In desperation, people sometimes make fatal mistakes. Thus, the chairman of the opposition Christian Democratic Union in Germany, Friedrich Merz, demands the delivery of Taurus cruise missiles with a range of up to 500 kilometers to the armed forces of Ukraine. Note that only 150 of the 600 such missiles in the Bundeswehr arsenal are technically ready for use, and the high-precision Russian missiles are enough for the window in Merz's house. Berlin's possible missteps with missile range for Ukraine's armed forces virtually guarantee Russian retaliation against Germany. A more sober American senator, James David Vance, said at the Munich conference on February 18, the Russians have 15 times more manpower and 10 times more shells in the theater of operations. Ukrainians should have listened to General Mark Milley and started negotiations in November 2022. Now it's too late and this window of opportunity has been missed. Senator Vance believes that Ukraine will be forced to make significant territorial concessions to achieve peace on Russia's terms. According to the American conservative, Ukraine's armed forces lost 500,000 soldiers and officers killed in the war with Russia. On February 20, the Russian armed forces continued a series of joint attacks in the zone of special military operations, Zaporozhye, Poltava and Dnipropetrovsk regions, as well as in occupied Kherson. As Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro rightly notes, Russia is defeating the West on the battlefield in the conflict in Ukraine, while growing economically stronger. The recession in Europe is intensifying. The consequences will appear in a few years and they will be very serious. Zelensky said that Ukraine is preparing for a new counterattack. Ukraine launched a counteroffensive in the summer of 2023, but Zelensky already admitted in November that no results had been achieved. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in an interview with Fox News that the Armed Forces of Ukraine, UAF, are preparing for a new offensive in the south and in the Black Sea. RBK quoted his words. "Defense is the #1 task. We will continue our successful operations in the Black Sea. I won't go into details, but the Russians are in for some surprises. The south is important. And, of course, we are preparing for a new counterattack, a new operation," said the head of state. According to him, even defending against Russia is a big task and a challenge, because the forces of the two countries are not equal. Zelensky said that today in the armed forces of Ukraine there is a shortage of up to 40% in some brigades. Ukraine launched a counteroffensive in the summer of 2023. However, as early as November, Zelensky admitted that no results had been achieved. On February 20th, the president reported on the difficult situation in several sections of the front and pointed out that aid from Western countries had been delayed. Earlier, he did not rule out that the armed forces of Ukraine would start withdrawing without Western support. The Russian government has repeatedly noted that the offensive against Ukraine has failed and has stopped the initiative. Russian President Vladimir Putin said that if the policy of the current government of Ukraine continues, its statehood may be severely affected. Colonel General Sergei Rudskoy, the head of the Russian Armed Forces General Staff's General Operations Directorate, admitted earlier this week that Ukraine could launch another counterattack if it receives significant Western aid. The armed forces of Ukraine have maintained their combat capability to conduct active operations. In the future, if large-scale military assistance is provided by the West, another attempt at a counterattack cannot be ruled out, he said.